in and ask. I want this to be a very engaging and conversation type of a discussion today. So just wanted to introduce everyone and just to make sure everyone can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
I think perfect. There we go. Awesome. So want to thank everyone for joining. Tiffany, thank you so much for inviting me to our Give Yourself Credit, kind of a workshop around understanding your credit and building your credit score, which I think we all know is super, super important in our lives, especially as we want to grow credit, get cars and obtain, real estate, all that good stuff. Credit just works for all that. So wanted to thank everyone for joining. I just want to make sure everyone feels comfortable. So please use your Zoom reactions. If you want to raise your hand, if you want to heart something, if you want to like something, if you step away, feel free to use your Zoom reactions. And feel free, as Tiffany said, to use the chat, ask questions, engage. Tiffany will flag me if there's any questions that I can answer in the moment, because I can't always see the chat, but I'll do my best to monitor and answer any questions that you all may have as well. First, just want to share a little bit about me. So my name is Bree. I actually lead our Capital One Cafe here in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. I know some of you live in the area, some of you don't, and we'll get a chance to kind of go around and share that. But I do reside in the Arlington area. I've been with Capital One about 11 years now. I like to tell people I started when I was in kindergarten, so they can do the math. But I've been with them a long time, and I absolutely love what I do because I get to do things like this. I get to do workshops for the people in our community. I get to get people more financially healthy, and I get to just talk about money, which a lot of people don't, right? And I'm sure as I'm talking, you guys are probably nodding your head. Like if we think about, what is our relationship with money? When was it first talked to about us? And, how comfortable is it to talk about money? Like, are you comfortable going up to a friend or to a family member and saying, hey, like, how much do you make? Or like, what does money look like in your family and in your day to day? And I'm sure people are probably gonna be like, what are you asking that for? Right? Or why are you asking me that? Because that's the stigma around money in our communities is that we don't talk about it enough. And we actually should talk about it way more than we do. So that is why I'm here today to have the conversation. I do everything from talking about credit to talking about savings, budgeting. I mean, the list goes on when you think about money. So really happy to be here. Outside of work, I really love doing anything outside. I'm really upset that it is beautiful, 75 degrees in DC right now, and I am, indoors, but I get to be with you all, so it's okay. But anything outside, I love farmers markets, hiking, trails, as long as I'm outside having a good time, and being with my family. So thank you so much again for joining us. But I would love to hear a little bit about you all. I know we have about 8 folks on this call. You don't have to come on camera if you don't want to, but would love to just maybe you share your first name and maybe where you're at, if you're in Richmond or DC or your city, and then maybe just share what you're looking to gain out of today's workshop. And we could popcorn it if you like, and I'll just kind of go through what I see on my screen and I'll pass it over to Francesca is the first one on my screen.
Hello, I'm Francesca, and right now I'm in Massachusetts,
Nice.
and it's not DC.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to learn anything I can about credit just because I don't know the most, and I'd like to, broaden my horizons and such.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. And Francesca, I think the weather was beautiful in Massachusetts. Then the Boston, I know the marathon was yesterday, so I heard it was really nice.
It's amazing. I'm gonna go outside very soon.
Yes, I love that. Awesome. And next on my screen is Daniel.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I'm Daniel. I'm in University of Maryland. And I'm just trying to be more informed about credit in general, I guess.
I love
Uh,
that.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So Daniel, you're getting all the nice weather too. You're in Maryland. You're like my neighbor right now. So you're getting all the sunshine.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Well, we'll have some sunlight available after this workshop. So get outside, get some vitamin D and soak up the sun. Cool. Thank you for sharing. Next on my screen is Ellie, I believe. Eli or Ellie. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
Hi, yeah, my name is Ellie.
Oh, hi, Ellie.
Hi, I am currently in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University. So I'm literally right next to you.
You are my neighbor, Ellie. Have you been into our Capital One Cafe before?
I have not been inside, but I've definitely passed it being in Georgetown.
You have to come inside, ask for Bree, and I'll treat you to a free coffee or tea.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, you got to come check us out. A bunch of students from George Washington and Georgetown always come in, and we have a bunch of cool study spots for students. We have free Wi-Fi, so a lot of students from your school come in. So you'll have to come check us out.
Of course, thank you.
Of course. And are you looking
And
to gain anything from today?
yeah, I just recently, I think like a few months ago, I just got my first credit card to build credit. So I'm definitely trying to maintain my good credit score and see how to maximize the most of my credit card.
I love that. Awesome. Well, you're in the perfect place to do that. Thank you so much for sharing. Next I see I have Derek.
Tariq,
Derek, sorry.
no worries. I am from Maryland and I'm looking to gain like everyone said, kind of just more about like credit score, what affects the credit, and then how we can build it to get more like the most out of it, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Derek, thank you so much for sharing. I have so many neighbors on this call. Y'all are gonna have to come do a group trip to Georgetown and get some coffee and have some fun with us. But thank you so much for sharing. Next I have Bethel.
Hi, my name is Bethel, and I am in Baltimore. I go to Johns Hopkins, and the reason I joined is also to learn about credit. Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining from Baltimore. And I think we have two left. Next, sorry if I didn't, I'm not pronouncing this right. Leol.
Hello, my name is Lowell. I'm currently joining from New York. Uh, I'm mostly here just to learn about what you can do with credit in the long run. I'm in the process of trying to shop around for my third credit card, and I'm not really sure what to look for. And also in probably a couple of years, I'd be interested in buying a property. So what are the actual implications of that? How does that affect your credit score and how you can leverage credit for that? So I'm just interested to learn about how you can use all those things.
I love that. Well, you'll definitely take away some learnings of that today, which I'm really excited about. So sounds like you kind of already have a little bit of an understanding of credit, being that this is your third one, but love that you're still educating yourself, even with continuing to build that credit. So thank you for sharing. And last but not least, I think we have Ahisane.
Hi everyone, my name is Ehsan. I'm in the Rockville, Maryland, but I study in the University of Maryland, College Park. And I kind of just joined so that I can learn more about what opportunities there are to increase your credit score. I know there's like different ways that it's calculated, so I kind of want to know more about that, and then also some things that people do that might hurt their credit score, and a bit about like loans.
Yes, I love that. Well, we are absolutely going to learn more about that too. I love that you said like not only what makes our credit good, but also what hurts our credit. Like that's also really important to know. And so I love that you're kind of already thinking about that. So thank you for sharing. I think that's everyone. Awesome. Well, thank you all for sharing. I have a challenge for everyone that lives in the DC area and that can come to Georgetown. I encourage you to stop by the Capital One Cafe. Your coffee or tea will be on me. It'll be free. Who doesn't like free? You get to check out the space a little bit too and kind of see what the Capital One Cafes are about, which actually I'm going to share just a little overview about. So for those that have never been into a Capital One Cafe, really what we're attempting to do in our spaces is to empower people to feel really good about their relationship with money, as I kind of mentioned before. What we really are designing the banking experience to be is one of a kind. We want the banking experience for customers to be simple, to be straightforward. Our goal is really to provide an experience that's tailored to fit naturally into your everyday life and not the other way around. I know a lot of us are millennials on this call, right? And I think we can all agree that, like, why do we need to go into a branch? What are we going into a branch for? Like, I can do this on my phone. I can order a check on my phone. I can order a cashier's check. I can get cash from ATM. Like, I can do all these things, right? And also, a lot of us know that traditional banks are only open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. What if I need someone when I get off of work at 8 o'clock? What if I need someone on the weekend because I work Monday through Friday, right? All those things play into a factor on why our Capital One cafes were built. We are open 7 days a week. We are open till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in some locations, because we really want to fit into the people's lives of our community. And like I said, not the other way around. So really what we're here to do is just to help folks like you, like me, really reach our financial goals. So you can come to the cafe to learn more about money in your account, or you can come to charge a phone. You can come to get free Wi-Fi. You can come to grab a coffee. You can come to study with a group of friends. Like, this place is for the community, and we welcome any and everyone. You don't even have to be a Capital One cardholder. If you are, that's awesome. You get 50% off all of our coffee and tea. But if not, we still want you to come experience this amazing place. So we're all about digital here. We work in a digital environment. If you come in, you'll see digital screens, you'll see technology. I like to call ourselves the Apple of banking. When you go into an Apple store, right, you're going to see people just obsessing over the technology, showing you how to use an iPhone, showing you all the Apple products. So that's what our Capital One cafes are. You're going to have someone there obsessing over our banking products and our technology, and really excited about the conversation of money. So that's a little bit about our cafes. And it kind of leads me to, why are we even doing these workshops, right? Like, you might think, why is a bank even interested in doing something like this? Well, sometimes workshops on subjects are really essential and important to the communities around us. We want our communities to understand how we want to use these workshops to forge connections and increase personal financial confidence, to be honest. So we facilitate human connections. Everything during the pandemic went to Zoom, as we all know, but we still want folks to just kind of have that human interaction and not have to do everything on their own. And also, we want to design a path for you all to be successful in your financial goals. So that's a little bit about our workshops and kind of why we're here. Before we get into the fun stuff today, I do have to just do the boring stuff really quick. So I do want to just share that this is not about providing financial advice or guidance. We are here just to help provide key terms and share best practices that can improve your relationship with money for educational purposes only. We're not intended to provide legal, investment, or financial advice, and we cannot indicate the availability or suitability of any Capital One product or service to your unique circumstances. For specific advice about your unique circumstance, we do ask that you may want to consult a qualified professional, as we are here just to kind of start the conversation and discussion with you. So, all right, boring stuff out the way. We can get to the fun stuff now. So today's agenda, we'll start off by talking about, what is a credit report and what is a credit score? Is it different? Is it similar? Why are there two separate things there? We'll talk a little bit about the factors that impact your credit. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to obtain your credit report. So how do we get one? What's on it? What does it look like? We'll kind of touch on a little bit of all of that today. So I would love to open the audience really quick and just ask, like, why do we feel credit matters? You can drop it in the chat. You can come off mute. There's no right or wrong answer, but why does credit matter? Why does it exist? And why do we even pay attention to it?
I would say it shows that you're responsible, like it shows your credibility, so that you can pay things back on time, and it helps you buy like bigger property or like houses or cars.
You hit the nail on the head. And one thing y'all gonna find out about me today, I'm okay with silence. I'm okay with awkward silence. I will let there be a moment of silence, because I know that your minds are just thinking and they're kind of, the wheels are spinning. So absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. It shows our credit health, right? It shows like how responsible we're being with our credit. And it helps us, you said, purchase things for the future, which is like, you hit the nail on the head. It's the ability to obtain goods and services before payment, right? Based on trust that you'll make the payment in the future. I'm sure if y'all had your hands raised right now, and I would say, by a show of hands, who thought when we were younger that credit was like free money? Because I know I did. I was like, oh, I gotta pay it back. Like, what? I always thought that as a kid. You'd go to like J.C. Penney's or Victoria's Secrets and like, oh, do you want to sign up for a credit card? You get 50% off today. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, why not? And little did I know that, Bree, that money needs to get paid back, right? So when you use credit cards and you use credit, you establish a good history credit because you demonstrate to potential leaders that you're responsible and you're trustworthy in using that money. We all know that with good credit, you have more financial options and opportunities. And we'll go in a little bit of like great credit score, good credit score, low credit score. And kind of, if you're in the great category or low category, what are your options? What are your opportunities within your credit range, right? Your credit score and your history is literally one of the most important factors that banks consider when you apply for a loan or credit. So think about applying for a home loan. I think someone shared that earlier. Cars, it could be any type of loan. Banks are going to look at that, and that will help decide whether they're going to loan you money and whether they trust you to pay that money back. Think about building a good credit history, right? It makes it more likely that you'll be approved for loans that you might need to help achieve your financial goals. I'm sure there's someone on this call that maybe would like to be an entrepreneur one day, right? And have their own business. Hey, guess what goes into that? Your credit, right? And so when you think about all like the financial goals in your life and kind of all of those aspirations, your credit score definitely takes a factor there. So I'm really excited to share that today's workshop will give you that knowledge you need to begin building those really, really, really good habits. So let's jump into credit report versus credit score. Does anyone want to share maybe what the difference is? Or you can even share like what you think a credit report is or what a credit score is. But I would love to just kind of see if anyone knows the difference or anyone knows what the two are. No right or wrong answer, I promise. All
I
right.
can try.
Yeah.
For the credit score.
Yeah, Ellie, go ahead.
I think a credit score is like after, or at least like I think you automatically get one when you first start or when you just receive your credit card. For after a while, it shows how trustworthy you were with like paying off the purchases that you made with the credit card, and it's like it's just a way to show how reliable you are with their credit score. So it could be either high, really high, which means that you're really good at paying back the money that you took, or really low, which probably means you're not so good at doing that.
100%, 100%. It literally gives lenders a general idea of how financially responsible you are. You hit the nail on the head. Before I go a little deeper though, does anyone want to take a stab at what the credit report is or what may be, or what you think the credit report is? Okay, I'll give a little hint here. And don't worry, we'll do a little knowledge check. Oh, okay, I see. It's someone put in the chat. It's the history of credit. Yes, that's literally what it is. Okay, let's think of it this way. So your credit report is a rundown of your credit history, right? It includes information about your past and existing credit agreements. So think about credit cards, mortgages, student loans, and more. Your credit score, as Ellie mentioned, kind of shows how financially responsible you are. Think about your report card, right? On your report cards in school, you get a grade. Your credit score is like a grade that is giving to a credit report, right? So very good or excellent is maybe like an A+, whereas poor credit or low credit may be an F, right? So think of it that way. I think that's the best way to kind of put it. And it's based on the information in your credit report. So as Ellie mentioned, the higher your score, the less risky you appear. So really great way to put it. So let's talk about if you've ever opened a credit card account, if you've financed a car, borrowed money from a bank, That's all going to be tracked in your credit report. It's a detailed file about your personal credit history. So credit history, credit reports record, does anyone know what like your credit reports may record? What type of history? I said credit cards. What else can kind of hit your credit report?
Loans.
Loans. Yep. So loans, credit cards. Anything else? No wrong answers, I promise. There's a lot out there. So I know if you're like, oh, there's a lot. We got loans, we got credit cards. What else?
Someone-
Duration. Oh, sorry.
If you could see the chat, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I saw I have it like little popping up. Okay. So duration of paying back your loans. Yes. Yes. Okay. That's a good one. All really good ones. Any outstanding debts, right? Any other financial obligations. Like there's a lot that goes into what reports, but those are just to kind of name a few. It outlines how much you owe creditors, how long each account has been open, and how consistently you make on-time payments. So Lowell got it right on nail on the head. Credit reports also list public records, right? Collections, bankruptcy filings. So where credit reports can kind of obtain a little of that. The list is way too long to go over. There's so many things that can report to your credit, but just wanted you all to kind of get an idea of what those things do report. Now, what's in your credit report? So we talked a little bit about a combination of identifying information, credit information, and public record information. So can anyone share maybe what they think a credit report can obtain outside of some of the things that we talked about? And I'll kind of share some too, because you all might be like, oh, I didn't think that even like went on a credit report. Because I think some of the things on here, when I first saw, I was like, I didn't even know that could be on the credit report. So I'm kind of going through the list here, but think about current and previous addresses and employers. So anyone you've ever worked for, right? Any addresses you've ever lived at, your social security number, date of birth, right? We know that is going to encompass into a credit report. Think all about judgments, bankruptcy filings, any liens, right? We talked about outstanding debts. But one thing that kind of shocked me is like overdue child support payments. I had no idea that is something that could potentially be on a credit report. And when I was going through this workshop, a couple of months ago, I was like, oh my gosh, like you wouldn't think those types of things would be on credit reports. But when you really look at the financial wholeness and the wellness of your credit, that does indeed show up on a report. Listing of companies that have recently requested your credit profile. So how many of us know when we apply for a credit card, that hits our credit report, right? Like if you apply for a credit card today for Capital One is going to pull your credit report and they're going to look at it and say, do we trust Bree? Do we trust Tiffany with this loan based on the report that we just gotten? That is now a hard inquiry on your credit report, which does indeed kind of affect your credit score. We'll dig into that because I think that's really important. But those are the types of things that kind of go into your credit report. What's not in your credit report? Does anyone know what does not affect your credit report whatsoever at all? Any ideas?
I'm just gonna guess.
Yeah.
Does your not affect it?
Say that again, you broke up a little bit.
Does your income not affect it?
So your income does actually not affect the credit score. So that was great. That was a great answer. You're correct. Now, what an income can affect is your credit limit, right? And we can touch on that, but like the amount of credit that a company is willing to give you, your income can be based on that, but it's not in your credit report. So awesome job. She's absolutely correct. Another few things that are not in your credit report, I see in the chat here, health expenses. Yes, Tiffany, you're exactly right. Health expenses are not going to be in your credit report, right? Now, if you're late on if you're late on a medical bill and that reports the credit report, that could be, but not the actual expense. A few other things that are not in your credit report: race, religion, your political party affiliation, any medical history, your lifestyle, background, criminal record, right? Those are not going to be in your credit report. Why? Because those would create biases, and it's actually not legal to even put those in credit reports, right? Just as it's not legal on job applications and things like that. So kind of like the same line effect there. Now, I always really love this conversation because a lot of people say, well, what is a great credit score, right? Because you'll hear some people say, oh, 850. And you'll hear some people say, well, as long as you got 650, you're good, right? So like, what is your number, right? Your credit score is a 3-digit number. It's typically ranges between, does anyone know the range that a credit score typically falls into? From low to high. Any guesses? All right, it's okay. I know y'all shy today. Y'all trying to get outside. The sun is shining. I get it. So it typically ranges from 300 to 850. Now that is based on information that's compiled in your credit report, okay? So while there are different scoring models, and we'll get into that, they all measure your credit health, which generally indicate your level of financial responsibility. So the higher your credit score is, the more financially healthy you appear. This can mean better rates, right? Better terms when you look to buy a new home, new car, and more. I think Lowell said it earlier. He's looking to get another credit card to help with purchasing a home. Like if you have a 850 or 700 credit score and the rate is 8%, because we all know the rates right now are crazy, you never know. That high credit score may get you a 6% or a 5%, right? So again, we talk about the better options and the better opportunities, the higher your credit score is. Now I'll be completely honest and vulnerable right now. Like it took me a while to kind of rebuild my credit. I was one of those young people who didn't really care about my credit score. I didn't know how much it would affect me as I got older. And, you know, I'm 31, you know, and I just started rebuilding my credit probably about 5 years ago. And now I feel at a really good place, but it definitely took time. And we all make mistakes in our lives, and some of those are financial mistakes. And we may, you know, want this really awesome, you know, credit card, or, you know, open up a new line, or a new car or a new phone, and we open up that line of credit, not realizing how it can impact us in the future. But it's really good to start now, right? And start thinking about, how will this impact my credit score? And do I want to risk that new car or that loan, and risk maybe having a lower credit score, especially if I don't own a home, if I don't own a car yet? So just thinking about those things is really, really important. And a lot of these things I didn't know that I knew 5 years ago, and where I was able to start building my credit. So cool. So that kind of brings us to who's keeping the score. Does anyone know our 3 main credit bureaus? The bureaus that keep our credit information. We have 3 main ones. Anyone know any of them? If I say them, you'll probably say, oh, okay, that sounds familiar. Tiffany, I
I think
see.
one is,
Go ahead.
oh, I think one is TransUnion.
Yes, TransUnion is one of the main ones. Anyone else take a stab at the other 2? They start with an E. I'll give a hint, an E.
Equifax?
Yup, Equifax. So we have TransUnion, we have Equifax, and the last one is Experian. So Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, those are our main 3 credit bureaus. Those credit bureaus collect and keep the data that is used to calculate our individual credit scores. So each bureau uses a different and proprietary algorithm to calculate our individual score. So really don't be surprised when you request your score, you actually receive 3 different numbers. That is perfectly normal, because the numbers are coming from different reporting agencies. So they may all be different, but what you will find out is that they're all within the same range. So if you look at TransUnion, you may see 630. If you look at Equifax, you may see 638 to 640. And then maybe you look at Experian and you see 650, right? There's always normally about a 20-point difference there, but you're never going to see the same exact score on all three because they all do report with different agencies. So that's really good to know there. And we'll get more into the credit bureaus in a few. All right, so really quick, this is just a little bit of a group discussion. And there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just kind of like us kind of taking what we just learned in the first portion and kind of talking about it. But I would love for someone to maybe share, like, what can good credit help you do personally? And if you have any personal goals in your future that you're like, hey, this is what good credit would help me do, I would love to kind of hear what some of those goals may be. If you all would be willing to share, you can share it in the chat. You can come off mute, but we can kind of start. And I'll go first. Like right now, y'all, I'm in the process of buying a home. And we know it is rough out here. One, the rates have increased. Two, income does not look like it used to back in the day. A lot of you all are college students. I have been in the workforce for 11 years and a lot has changed and it's rough, especially for a single, one income household. I don't have any kids and it's kind of rough right now. So I know that keeping a good credit score is really going to help me maybe buy that interest rate down or, help me with some of those financial loans that I may need. And that's what I'm really, really working on. So I know having good credit would help me with that. And Bethel put in the chat, yes, getting your own apartment. Like, hello, like I remember getting my first apartment and they were like, hey, if you have a great credit score, this is what your rent will be. But if you have a low credit score, this is what your rent will be. And you'll have to put 2 months deposit. So like, same apartment, same exact layout, but it was all dependent on whether I had a really good credit score or whether I had a really low one. Now, sadly, at that time, I had a little bit of a low one. So I did have to come out of pocket more, double, and I had a higher rent amount, which was, not ideal for someone who's 21, just, getting out of school with those things. So Bethel, you hit the nail on the head. Would anyone else like to share? Any goals you all have that good credit may help you achieve? And again, you're more than welcome to put in the chat if you'd like. All right, so we have one in the chat. Buying a car. Yes, absolutely. 1000%. And same thing I said earlier, that even with an apartment, even with a home, a car works the same way. If you go and you look at a 2020 Honda, same car, right? 2020 Honda Silver, and someone with good credit goes, they're probably going to have a lower interest rate. They're probably going to have a lower payment on a car. They're going to have all this opportunity. And you have someone that goes with a low credit score, same car, same dealership. That person is probably going to have a high interest rate and they're going to have to pay more monthly. Why? Because they have poor credit. So the lender is looking at those people and saying, hey, we actually don't think you're going to be responsible with this loan. So we're going to charge you a lot more, right? Whereas the person with good credit, they're going to look and say, this person has paid on time. They are responsible with every other creditor. We are going to give them because we know we can trust them. We know they're trustworthy. We know that they're going to pay the loan back on time. So again, really, really, really important things. Great examples, y'all. Great examples. If you have any more, or if anyone who wants to share, please, please, please feel free to throw it in the chat. All right. So we are going to talk a little bit about the credit score, right? Many factors we know affect our credit score. And once you kind of understand how your score is determined, you actually can take some specific actions to begin building up your credit score. So for example, having and keeping, I'll say that again, having and keeping a good credit score requires a lot of personal responsibility and good habits, right? We know good habits can be saving, not spending outside of your means, just making really good financial, decisions, especially when it comes to your health. I think a lot of times folks start with a good credit score and then over time, due to their habits and choices, that score can go down. So I really do want to emphasize on making sure that, yes, we have a good credit score or a decent credit score, and we're either working towards building a great one, or you know, we're maintaining it, because if we go down, that's when we start to see that decline and in our financial habits. Also, I think one thing to know is, you know, kind of knowing your credit score helps you maximize your credit usage. So if you know you're at an 850 or a 700 or even a 650, it'll help you make sound credit decisions that reflect well the next time your credit report is run. So we're going to talk a little bit about how our credit report is calculated, so you know how to manage your credit usage without hurting it and using your eye towards improving your score. So let's talk a little bit about FICO. Has anyone heard of a FICO score? You can like throw your hand up. You can say yes in the chat. You can use your reaction. Perfect. Okay. I see some thumbs up. Okay. Awesome. Good. This is good. So a FICO score is the most common credit measurement. Okay. And FICO is actually an abbreviation. The F stands for fair, the I stands for Isaac, and CO stands for company. And this is a data excuse me, I'm sorry, my grammar is all over the place. This is a data analytics company that originally devised and actually created the FICO scoring system. Now, for those that know the FICO scoring system, it ranges from 300 to 850. That's kind of like the general range. We know the higher, the better, right? A credit score that falls below 670, as you can see on the screen, is normally around like good, and it can sometimes even be poor or fair. And then we know that if you can see right here, anything from 740 all the way to 850 is considered very good to excellent. So let's start from the bottom. So very poor would kind of be anything from 300 to 579. Now remember, this is the FICO score. We'll go to another kind of scoring board in a minute. 580 to 669 is poor, right? Then you'll have 670 to 739, which is good. Like, okay, that's good. You're doing what you need to be doing. 740 to 799 is like very good. Maybe you've had maybe a few little dents in your credit history, your credit report, but outside of that, very good. And then 800 to 850 is like exceptional. So remember we talked about a report card earlier, like this is your A+++++, maybe some, what do they call it? Some extra work that has been graded. I haven't been in school in a really long time, but like when you get like some bonus work, right? That A++, this was what exceptional is. And then your very poor will kind of be on the F category. So this is FICO. Now, what goes into a FICO number? I think this is really important to talk about too. And I think someone mentioned this and they're like, hey, I said, what do you want to get out of this call? And someone on this call said, I want to know like what percentage goes to what, like how much am I using in my score? Am I paying my bills on time? So this slide is for that person. So let's talk about the biggest percentage, right? These are some factors that go into calculating the credit score for FICO. 35% is paying your bills on time. This is so important and so underrated because you think, oh, I missed a day. Oh, I missed 2 days. Oh, I can pay that next week when I get paid. And I know that's easier said than done sometimes, but that goes into your credit report. That goes into that FICO number. That goes into, that goes into your credit score. So are you paying that bill when the bill due date is done? Are your bills on auto payment? Auto payment has saved my life because guess what? Life goes 1,000 miles per hour these days, and we don't always have time to think about when bills are due and things like that. So your credit, paying your bills on time is super important. How much credit you owe? 30%. So those are your biggest pieces of pie right there. Paying it on time and how much debt and how much credit you actually owe. And then you have 15% of it is how long you've been using the credit. Have you had this credit card for a month, 2 months, 20 years? That is a really important part of it. Types of credit. Do you have a credit card, a home, and a car? Or do you just have all credit cards? Do you have all homes? Do you have all cars? Like understanding the types of credit is really important. And then that last 10% is how often you apply for credit. How frequently are you asking lenders to look at your report? Now, the more that you ask lenders to look at your report, it actually screams to lenders that you are not that financially responsible because you are trying to get loans and you're trying to get lenders to give you all this credit in a period of time. And so it doesn't show that you're actually making good financial habits. If you're maybe asking a lender to, maybe you buy a home and then maybe a year later you buy a car and then maybe 6 months later you get a credit card, that is showing good health and good habit because you're kind of like sparingly asking for those lenders to give you a loan. We have a question in the chat. What is an ideal time period to request a credit limit increase or get a new credit line? That's a great question. And if you do some research out there, Lowell, you'll see a couple of different answers. Some people say 3 to 6 months. Some say up to 9 months. Some will even say a year. And I think that really depends on your credit score, right? And you don't have to share that with me, Lowell, right? But like say, for example, your credit score is a 600. When you get that new credit card or that first credit card, it's probably going to go down about 30 to 50 points because it's an inquiry, right? Depending on, this is, again, credit is not one size fits all, y'all. I'm just giving kind of this is, everyone has their own unique circumstance. And then say, for example, you say, okay, in 6 months, I'm going to get another credit card, but your credit score hasn't even recovered from that inquiry, then you're going to continue to go down. But if you look at your credit score, you say, okay, I applied for a credit card 6 months ago, and I actually was able to bounce back from that. I got my 25 points back or my 30 points back. I'm going to go ahead and apply for another credit card. Like, that's okay, right? You've already kind of bounced back from that inquiry hitting your card and you're good to go. But if you look at your credit score and you see that you just applied for a credit card, and you want to apply for one 30 days later or 2 months later, and you haven't even kind of recuperated from that ding on your credit score, probably not a good time to get a new credit line or a credit card. Now, for a credit increase, Lowell, I really recommend that you reach out to that specific credit card company. I can only share what Capital One does, and Capital One actually, we do not look at your credit score for a credit line increase. We normally look at the credit history, how long you've been using the card, have you been making the payments on time? Now, that's only my company. I don't know how other companies do it. So I would always reach out to the credit card company and say, hey, if I apply for a credit line increase, will this affect me? Is there an ideal time period? Because it can vary. So that would be kind of my loose advice. Is to reach out to that specific creditor. Great question. Awesome. All right. So this is our second scoring model. So we talked about FICO. Now we're going to talk about Vantage. So an alternative credit scoring model is called Vantage Score. And it was developed jointly in 2006 by the 3 credit bureaus. So like a FICO score, this score is a 3-digit number. It ranges from 300 to 850 like the other ones. And it has the scale is a little bit different from the FICO. So if you can see here, you still have your grading models here. You still have your categories, but the numbers are just a little bit different from FICO. Now, you might be asking what's in the Vantage score, right? What's different? So your Vantage score uses its own proprietary scoring criteria, and it weights a little bit different from FICO. And here's how. So it weights your payment history, your age, and the type of credit. So the age of the credit is what I mean, not your age. How long you've had the credit, the type of credit, the total balances. So how much does all your credit sum up to? And then your recent credit inquiries. So it has 4 categories based on the FICO. On the pie chart, you saw about 5 or 6 categories. So these 2 credit monitoring scales is how you're going to get your credit score, Vantage and FICO. I'm going to do a little quick check-in. Any questions on credit score? What questions do you have around anything FICO, anything Vantage, anything we just discussed? All righty. Well, if something pops in your head, I am monitoring the chat, so feel free to drop it in there. Cool. All right, so we talked a little bit about credit, we talked about a score, but how do we create those healthy habits to even get a really good score, right? Even if your credit is not the best, y'all, it's never too late to begin taking control of your credit. I just shared that up to 5 years ago. I didn't have the best credit score, and I like woke up one day and I was like, listen, I want a house, I want a car, I want a family to take care of. Like, I've got to get my financial habits in order. And hey, depending on the seriousness of your past and present credit mistakes, it could take several months, it can take even several years. And that's why I'm so happy we're having this conversation early on so that we can help you all create those healthy habits. Some ways to create those healthy habits: make your payments on time every single time. Make at least the minimum payment, you all. Like, if your limit, if your balance is $400 one month and you can't pay that $400, hey, we need to pay it, right? We need to get a plan to pay it, but let's at least make that $25 minimum payment. At least that minimum payment, so that we can show the creditors that we are making those payments on time. Avoid exceeding the credit limit. So if your limit is 4,000 and you make a purchase for 5,000, creditors can see that. They can see, okay, this person's not using the credit responsibly. So make sure you're staying at your limit or below. And then paying attention to those balances, okay? Ideally, the rule of thumb is you want to keep your balances under 30% of your credit limit at any time if possible. Even if you pay off your bill in full every month, you want to just use 30% of that limit. If you start getting near your credit limit, this can be a flag to potential lenders. Basically what that tells lenders is this person's maxing out their credit cards and they must be in like desperation to use this money, and they may not have any liquid money anywhere else. And so you're going to want to pay that off as quickly as possible. And then checking your credit report at least once a year, the way that you would go to the doctors, the way that you would get your engine checked, your tires checked, oil change. You want to make sure, well, hopefully you're getting your oil change more than once a year, but hopefully you want to put this in your list of things to get checked yearly. And we'll learn in a few seconds how to actually check that credit report. And we'll kind of close out with that. So those are a couple of healthy credit habits. There's a whole bunch out there, y'all, that can help you. But those are just a few to kind of get your mind going. All right, I'm in Georgetown, y'all. Sorry, there's an ambulance coming across the street right now. So we're gonna talk a little bit about just where do we find our credit report? Does anyone know where we can request or find a credit report? You can throw it in the chat. You can take a wild guess if you'd like. All right, no, banking app. Okay, banking app, yes. Yes, we'll get to that too. I love that you said that, banking app, because you absolutely can request a credit report through a banking app. And where the where the banks get it from is actually from annualcreditreport.com. So thanks to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it was a law passed years ago. Everyone is entitled to one free credit report each year from each of the major bureaus. So you can request one from TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax once a year, and they will send you a credit report. You can request your free credit report. You can go to annualcreditreport.com, or you can call a number. But this website is the only website authorized by federal law to provide your free annual credit report. Now, yes, banks can get it. You can get it through the app, and the bank will get it. But if you're seeing it on a random website or an ad pops up, Credit Karma, make sure you are fact checking it. A lot of places will say, oh, free credit report, and then you have to sign up and you have to pay, and they may even scam you. So just always know that annualcreditreport.com is the only authorized federal website to get your reports from. Now, how you choose to receive your credit report is totally up to you. You can have it mailed directly to you. You can view it online. Everything's digital these days. But if you do get it online, just make sure to print out a copy for your records, because again, you only get it once. So you want to make sure you do that. All right. And then something just quick to remind you all is check everything twice. I think it's really important to check your credit report. Any errors could really damage your credit. We all know that we are living in a time where scamming and scams are just everywhere. And so we want to make sure that we're checking that credit report. If there's anything that looks odd, or you're like, oh, this doesn't look like me, or hey, I actually never took out a loan for $30,000 for a boat down at the harbor, then hey, something's red alerts, red flags. You can actually reach out to those credit bureaus and report those things so that we can make sure we start the process to get them removed off of your credit. But pay special attention to the errors that can indicate you've been a victim of identity theft, anything like that. We are live in a society where that is at an all-time high. So just making sure you're checking those things twice, 3 times if you're feeling really good about it as well. And then we'll kind of just close out with, we'll skip that because we don't even have that anymore within Capital One, but just a few steps to getting strong credit. And this is kind of just a recap because I've already touched base on it. But one is like checking your free credit reports. Make sure y'all get those credit reports, even if it shows that you don't have anything and it's a 0, right? You just want to make sure nothing is falsely getting reported under you. Investigate any incorrect information. We talked about that. Discover free apps to monitor your credit. I mentioned if you have Credit Karma, there's so many apps out there that are legit that can help you monitor that credit. If you have a Capital One account, we have actually, it's actually built into our app where you have a credit monitoring system. And a lot of banks have that where it's already built in the app. You don't even have to like download something different. Identify opportunities to improve your credit score. So we talked about some of those financially healthy habits. And then be patient. I think this is the biggest one. Like I'm learning this, but like it's never too late to take control of your finances, take control of that credit. And even if you feel like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a 3-year, 4-year thing, like let's start now. Let's start building those habits. That way you can go ahead and get to those financial dreams and successes. And like Lowell said, buying a home, buying a car. I think Bethel said getting an apartment, like all those things. Those are your goals. Those are your dreams and aspirations. And every little thing on your credit report, your credit score, all those habits do matter. So I kind of just went through that there. And then to learn more, I will share all of this with Tiffany. I will share links. I will share the number, all of that, and she can kind of share out with you all. But I will absolutely share just kind of some of the sources that we got this information from if y'all want to do some fact checking, if you want to learn more about anything we shared today. And that kind of wraps up today, but I would love to open it up if y'all have any questions. Tiffany, if you have any questions, definitely want to open the space. I know we have like a few minutes left.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for all this information that you put out there. It's very important, and I hope everyone took something away. I am going to put on our screen right now a survey. If you could please answer this survey, that would be amazing. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, you just started sharing.
Is it the survey?
It says Tiffany has started screen. Oh, it just went away.
Okay, let's see. And let me know if you could see the survey. Can you see the survey?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, I'll go ahead and drop the link of the survey in the chat and everybody could answer that then. And once you answer the survey, just let me know. And yeah, if you have any questions for Bree, please drop it in the chat.
Yes, or if you're in the area, I said come see me at Georgetown. You can ask me a question over some free coffee. So
We're up on the free coffee.
yes, and Tiffany, I will share all the links and resources with you, and you can share it with this group if you'd like as well.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, let me know if you guys got the survey link in the chat.
Perfect. I see it just dropped in the chat, and it did open up for me as well.
Okay, perfect. So please take a few minutes to just answer that. We have like 2 more minutes before this call ends, so please just take those 2 minutes to answer that. And I will stop recording now.